Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you my 10 favorite books from 2019. I have them right here. Hopefully I don't drop them everywhere. So I set a goal at the beginning of 2019 to read 100 books, and there was a lot of them that were more like fluff or fun books, but there was several that focused on like human development or psychology or just some fun ones we read for book club. So I went through and picked out the 10 that I like the most. Some of them are kind of grouped together. So there are more than 10 books here because they're by the same authors. So I just wanted to share them with you. So I'm gonna go through them somewhat quickly. So this video is not super long, but I have reviews on almost all of them. So I will link that all down below to my blog post, and you can go look at all the reviews and learn more about them if you're interested. So the first ones I wanted to mention are by Leonard Cohen. So there's 4 of them. This is number 1, but there's 4 books. He is quickly become one of my favorite authors. And I read 3 of these this year and 1 of them last year. And so there's Boys Adrift, Girls on the Edge, Why Gender Matters, and The Collapse of Parenting by him. And they're all very easy reads. There is research in them, but it's not so research laden that it's difficult for anybody to read. And he just talks about a lot of different development issues, different things going on with youth, families today. And I just love them. I think they're so good and so important for us to be aware as mothers. And so that's one of the big reasons I read, for not just for being homeschool, like being able to teach my kids, but because it's so important to understand what's going on in the world and to understand the best way to teach our children, just as a mom, not even a homeschool mom, but just being around our kids all the time. There's just important things for us to know and to be able to teach them and to understand what they're being exposed to at school, if they're going to public school, at home with their friends. So his books, I highly recommend them. They are some of my favorites. So the next one that I wanted to recommend is also 2 books, but these are by Dr. Meg Meeker, and there's Strong Mothers, Strong Sons, and Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. And she has some different lists of ways that you can strengthen your relationships with your daughters and your sons. And I just think that they're really good. They're, again, pretty easy to read. They have a lot of research. They also have just a lot of stories that just break my heart, of things going on in the world today and struggles of our youth. And I just really think she did a great job writing them. And so I recommend these ones as well. So another book that I really enjoyed reading this year was Katie Bell and the Wishing Well. So this was something I was exposed to when I went to a homeschooling conference earlier this year. And it talks about wealth mentality versus scarcity mentality. And a lot of us live with a scarcity mentality, and it's kind of hard to switch that to wealth mentality. But Nephi is the author. He wrote it in a story form, and I think it's just absolutely brilliant the way he wrote it, because it's so much easier to understand and to relate to, as the story of this girl that goes through some struggles of wanting this, I don't remember what it is. It's not a motorcycle, but like an electric scooter type thing. And so how she's trying to make money, and he goes through and explains this wealth mentality versus scarcity mentality in story version. So I think this is a really good one, especially to help your kids. He believes all children before they're 18 should be entrepreneurs and have a job that they've created themselves. So that's a really great book. So the next one that I read at the beginning of this year, or last year, because I'm filming this in 2020, I'm a little bit behind, but whatever, we'll get there. So this one was Viral Parenting by Mindy McKnight, and she has a YouTube channel. It's Cute Girls Hairstyles, I believe. And then her daughters that are twins, Brooklyn and Bailey, also have a YouTube channel, and they're really big. So she talks about just the importance of setting boundaries, building trust, it says right here, and raising responsible kids in an online world. And she talks about how she monitors her kids, how she's aware of what they're doing on social media with their phones, how they have very strict rules. She even has contracts she has them sign that outline what will happen if they break the rules. She talks about allowance and the different age groups and what she expects her kids to pay. So I've actually implemented some of those ideas with my kids. So I just think this was a really good book. And again, it's very easy to read, and it has excerpts from her children as you go through it. So it has some of their thoughts on these rules. And so I thought that was fun too. It just made it a little bit different. So another one, this isn't, these are all like parenting development books, but this one is a little different. So Where the Crawdads Sing, we read this for book club this year, and I really like this book. It also makes me think of human development. That's what I studied in school. So that's what I focus on with this book, is thinking about human development, but I think it's very well written. I can't tell you too much because I'll give the story away, but just this young girl that is basically raises herself and the different struggles that she goes through and her ability to trust or not trust people just because she didn't interact with them, and some of the different maturity things that she just doesn't gain because she's not raised around other people and having to interact with individuals. So I have a review on this one that talks more about my human development perspective of it, but I really like this one. It was a fun read, it was a quick read, and I just really enjoyed it. So the next one is Uniquely Human, and a lot of you probably don't know, my oldest son was recently diagnosed with autism. And so I read this. This was one of the ones my mother-in-law recommended for me to read, and I really, really liked it. It gave such a good perspective on autism and just a great way to look at it. So if you have autism yourself, if you have a child, or even just interact with any children that might have autism, I just think this is a good book for anybody to read. And again, very easy to read. I'm not into super deep research reading. I just have a hard time getting through those types of books. So most of these books are really, really easy to read. And then the next one is Parenting with Love and Logic. This was a Christmas present last year, or like 2 years ago, from my mom. And so I read it at the beginning of 2019 and really, really liked it. I like the suggestions. I love reading different parenting books because they give me different ideas of things I can implement. So not everything in this book will apply to you, but there are a lot of things that might. And so I still think it's a good read, and it gives so many examples. The second half of this book is all about just different examples of how you can implement this. So I really like that part of this book. It's not just, oh, this is the principle, and you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? He gives examples of how to actually do it. And then this one I really liked. This is Knights in Training, and by Heather Haupt. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right, but I really like this. And most of the principles, I don't know if most, there's a lot of them that apply to boys, but they can also apply to girls. I wish she has had one for like princesses or girls, some sort of girl-oriented one. But I really like this. She gives these 10 principles and talks about how we can raise these honorable, compassionate, loving boys, and gives different activities you can do with like fighting with swords and setting up rules so they understand the importance of following these boundaries and having guidelines. So this was another one that I really, really enjoyed. And then we're getting down to the bottom, I promise. There's a lot of books. But I really like this one, The Great Alone. I've read other books by Kristen Hanna. Well, I've read one other book. I read The Nightingale, which I really, really liked. But this one is talking about Alaska. And the reason I really love this book and would recommend it is just because I feel like it opened my eyes to a world that I just was not aware of at all. It might have some triggers for you. It does talk a lot about abuse, and the girl in it is her parents. Her dad is abusive to her mom. So there's some different struggles there, but I feel like there's just so many good principles in here. And again, just her learning who she is. And so this is a really, really good book to read. And then my last one is, it's my Kindle, because most of my fluff books I use from Kindle Unlimited off of Amazon. And there's a few authors that I like. Well, really like. There's a few others that I will read as well, but I love Regency romance right now, but I don't want anything super dirty and vulgar. And so Rebecca Conley is a really good author for that. And Bree Wolfe also has some really good ones that are pretty clean. And so does Ashton Newbold. I think that's her last name, and like spacing right now. I think it's Newbold. But I'll list all those things so you can look up some of them if you're interested. And I just read them on this because I can carry it around anywhere, and it just makes it easy to pull out and get my reading in. So those were my 10 favorite books. Obviously it's like 10 plus because some of them, there was more, the authors made more. So, but if you're interested in seeing more book reviews like this or different homeschooling things, please subscribe below, and we will see you next time.